and welcome to our third installment of the Big Ten previews here on the OHIO podcast. This time we're going to be talking about the Minnesota Golden Gophers, Chris. I'm excited to talk about this one. They're one of my sneaky favorite teams this year in the Big Ten, not going to lie. But before we get into all of that, make sure you smash that like button, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, ring the bell. Get notified every time we go live. We go live quite often, and we also drop new content on the daily, sometimes twice a day now. And Chris, make sure that you make a comment down in the comment section below, guys, because we want to know what you think about what we think. Got a great interview coming your way, Curt, from the Sky U Pod's going to be joining us as well. So we're looking forward to that. But Chris, let's dive into Minnesota. Your overall kind of thoughts about Minnesota before we go do a little bit of a historical dive into them.
I feel like they're a good team year in and year out, and not a great team. I feel like they underachieve a lot. I think PJ Fleck is better, a better coach than he gets credit for, because I'll tell you, I think Minnesota is one of those teams that always seems to get just bitten by the injury bug, Eric. That's
Yeah.
that's a big problem they have every year. I mean, you think back to the year when we first started CJ Stroud, it's a game Minnesota probably wins if Ibrahim doesn't go down.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, you just look through the years. The injury bug is something that always seems to bite Minnesota. If he can keep a team healthy for a full season, which is going to be a challenge to do with the new extended season, but if you can keep a team healthy the whole season, I don't want to say he's a playoff team yet, but you know what? I think he's somebody that could surprise a lot of teams, including some playoff teams.
And to piggyback off your comment, Chris, I think depth is always an issue at Minnesota.
It is.
And oftentimes because of those injuries or the lack of depth, they have these young kids who get thrust into playing time who aren't ready, and then they become really good players because they've got a lot of experience because they played so much as youngsters. But this is going to be kind of an interesting lineup this year for Minnesota that Curt lays out for us. But before we dive into that, let's take a look at some of the history behind Minnesota. Last year, 2024, they were 8-5, 5-4 in the Big Ten. They had an opening season loss to North Carolina before wins over Rhode Island and Nevada. They opened up Big Ten play by losing to Iowa and Michigan. That Michigan game was a close one. So was the North Carolina game. Then they went on a four-game winning streak, wins over USC, UCLA, Maryland, Illinois. Big win there. Then they lose kind of oddly on the road at Rutgers. They get beat by 1 point against Penn State. And then they defeated Wisconsin, and then they won their bowl game against Virginia Tech. The over/under last year on Minnesota was 4.5. Chris, we both said take the over. This was one of my Big Ten specials last year. I was very confident that Minnesota was going to get more than 4.5 wins. I indeed was correct on that, and so won some nice money on the Gophers last year. Um, PJ Fleck is going to be entering into his 10th season. He has an overall record of 56-39. Of course, Minnesota is plays their home games in Minneapolis at the Huntington Bank Field, capacity 50,805. Minnesota's all-time record is 735 wins to 545 losses, 44 ties. They now have a winning record in bowl games at 13-12, and they've won the conference 18 times. When you look at those numbers, Chris, of course, if you go way back to like the 40s, Minnesota won some national championships. This was actually a program 80 years ago that was on top of the college football world. Not so much anymore. They're at a significant recruiting disadvantage due to location. High school football in Minnesota is not the greatest in the country, obviously, but they're a developmental program, and they're a program that, if you're not careful, they can get you. They can climb up there and bite you. Just ask Penn State. They almost that almost happened to them again against Minnesota last year. So PJ Fleck, the Fighting Flexers, one of those coaches off the Jim Tressel coaching tree, and entering the year number 10 in Minnesota, man. So that's a little bit of the historical background there. Any last thoughts before we bring on Curt?
Yeah, this is just something I happen to notice. And Eric, I don't know if you've picked up on this. They were very close to beating Michigan, very close to beating North Carolina, very close to beating Penn State. Do you realize they only lost to one team last year that was not a playoff team?
Really?
Because didn't they lose to who were their losses against again?
North Carolina
Oh no,
and
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of another team. Sorry.
yes, they lost to North Carolina, Iowa, Michigan,
I'm
Rutgers,
thinking of
and Penn State.
Illinois because I think Illinois is one of the
Yes,
teams they beat.
right.
They were the only non. There we go. They were the only non-playoff team to beat Illinois. That's where I was trying to go with it.
Okay, okay.
Because Illinois' other losses came to Penn State and Oregon.
Yeah, I think you're right. So, yeah, I mean, they're a team that can get you if you're not careful. They're absolutely that kind of team. All right, let's bring on Curt from the Sky U Pod. This is a great interview. You guys are all going to love it, and then Chris and I will be back to give you our final predictions on the Gophers for 2025. And welcome back to the OHIO podcast, everybody. I'm joined by my good friend Curt from the Sky U Pod. Curt, welcome into the OHIO podcast, my man.
Thanks for having me on. Always a fun time talking football with you.
Another year, another opportunity for you and I to break down Gopher football. And this year we actually get to play each other. So we'll actually see each other again this year
Yeah.
in the regular season. That's always a lot of fun. Maybe we'll have to see if we can come up with a good little a side bet or something.
All right.
You don't seem excited about that, Curt.
Well, the defending national champions. I gotta, I don't know if I can go straight up win and loss bet, but maybe the spread depending on what it is. We'll see. We'll see
Fair
when it gets
enough.
here.
Fair enough. That sounds good. Maybe we can do that. But tonight's not about Ohio State. Tonight is about the Gophers, my man. Before we open it up and we kind of break open what the expectations are for this year for you guys, let's talk a little bit about last year. How do you feel the season ended for you guys in 2024, and how did that set the stage for the off season this year in 2025?
Yeah, last season I would say there's a lot of pressure on the program overall, and so getting to that 7-5 mark, I think it has to be like just seen as a success with the new Big Ten. You're bringing the schools from out west. No more Big Ten West that we were supposedly hiding in. I know I'm not denying it was the weaker side, but I think some of those teams were better than what they got credit for nationally. Point aside, 2 years ago was a down year. And so with Rossi, our defensive coordinator had left, kind of left things up in a flux of what's it going to look like now when PJ's in full control of making hires on the defensive coordinator, which he brought in Corey Etherman, which turned out to be a home run hire. The defense got turned around. And then second year, it was the second year for our offensive coordinator, John Harbaugh. So I'm sorry, Greg Harbaugh. I was thinking
You're on with a
Ravens coach,
Buckeye
right?
fan. You
I
had
know,
this.
I
You're
know,
like, ah!
I know. My bad. But he took a huge step forward with Max Brosmer coming in and really settling in and having an offensive identity. So, 7-5. I think we finished. Gosh, I think it was like 3-4 in one score games, or 2-4 in one score games. So some that didn't go our way, but I mean, when you take a zoomed out look at the rest of the teams in the Big Ten, and outside of those top four, maybe five teams, felt like anybody could really beat anybody any given week. So I think a lot of teams feel like they could have done better, and the Gophers definitely could have. But overall, I think it was viewed as a success.
Yeah, I would I would say so. I mean, you guys go on to the Duke's Mayo Bowl and you beat Virginia Tech by 2 scores. You beat your rival Wisconsin handily.
Yeah,
You lost by Penn State, who was in the Final Four of college football by 1 point.
yeah,
So you beat Illinois, who's
yeah,
everybody's offseason darling this year. You beat them
yeah.
by what was that? 8, 25,
I think it was
17.
8 points. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a good game.
Yeah, you beat USC. You welcomed them to the Big Ten by beating them by a score. I would say Minnesota, Yeah, it was a successful season for PJ Fleck. Let's talk PJ Fleck. He's going in the year number 9, man. 56 and 39 overall in his career in Minneapolis. 33 and 36 in conference play. What's kind of the pulse of the fan base when it comes to PJ Fleck this offseason?
I think outside of 2019, I would say it's never been higher as far as confidence in him, and it really is just because we were able to finally put together a somewhat modern passing offense last year with Max Brosmer coming in. He showed the willingness to go for it in big time situations when other times he would have played super conservatively, like in years past. USC game, for example, we went for it on the inch line, 4th and goal late in the game to get that 1-score lead. In years past, we don't think PJ makes that call. So he's got a saying himself that he likes that everyone needs to change their best. And as fans, we felt like PJ, not perfect with it, still got conservative at times, but definitely made strides forward and just having a better feel for the team that he's actually got and you know, putting the guys in the best position possible to go out and win games. So felt like he made tons of improvement just in game situations and an overall feel for the game. And you know, it's not lighting up the recruiting rankings right now, like nationally, like Ohio State fans are doing, but he's winning a lot of the in-state guys right now and getting fans pretty excited about just the recruits that we are bringing in.
It's not bad, man, to create that hometown buzz, the state pride.
Yeah,
To those type of kids usually are going to give it a little bit more than your out of staters.
yeah,
That's the way we look at it here in Ohio. And obviously no different there. I would say in Minnesota. Yeah, obviously high school football in Minnesota and high school football in Ohio or Georgia or Texas or Florida or whatever, California. Yeah, it's different. More kids to choose from.
yeah,
Bigger cities and things, but there's good high school ball everywhere if you just know where to look. And of course,
right.
in a school like at Minnesota, I gotta believe, Curt, that you guys still view yourselves as a developmental program.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we don't have the money to go out and pull, and this isn't shade at them. It's just like, Oregon can go out and buy if they really want a left tackle in the portal, like they can go out and pay best dollar for that. That's not what Minnesota's going to be able to do. The NIL has gotten a lot better, but you're absolutely right. Like some of our highest rated recruits who we might see this year are on the offensive line and stuff like that. So he's gotten good pieces in here to start developing. And, some of them are ready right away. Like we saw with Coy Parrish, who is a hometown kid and uh, got plenty of attention this year. And I'm sure he will going forward too. But that's fun to see.
All right, well, let's talk about some of that talent. Let's go over the roster a little bit. You want to start offense or defense first, Kurt?
Oh, man. Well, okay, so I would say this way: just we'll go defense. Defense has the
Okay.
stars, but less depth. Where the offense is like you feel good about the depth at everything, but it's all got to mesh. If that makes sense. So
It does make sense. All right, so let's talk defense first. Then we'll start up front, work our way back, and we'll just go with your projected starting lineup on the defensive line and work our way back.
sure. So number one, I'm guessing he played both positions last year just because of where we're at depth wise. He'll probably play more end, and that's Anthony Smith. Um, for my money and a lot of people's money, the most important player on this team. We cannot afford to have him get hurt. He's a freak of nature. He's like 6'6", almost 300 pounds. Can play inside or outside. I believe Ryan Burns, who's the Gophers 247 sports reporter, he had a stat in his last podcast, and I'm going to butcher it because I didn't write it down, but it was something where like he was top 5, top 4 in the Big Ten with pressures in the last 7 games of the season. So he came on really well late last year, and he's back for one more year. He's a guy that Gopher fans have a lot of hopes of. That'll get drafted pretty high in this upcoming draft if he gets a few more sacks in that. But yeah, so he'll be on one end. Inside, you're going to have Devin Eastern and Jalen Logan Redding, 2 kids that have been here a long time, both seniors. And then the other end spot hasn't been named, but my guess it'll be Jackson Howard, who was a former number 1 recruit in the state. Spent his first year at LSU before coming back home. Got some playing time last year, so I think he takes over for Danny Strigo, who's signed with, gosh, where did he sign? Jacksonville or somewhere? He signed somewhere as a UDFA, but yeah, so that'll be the front four.
Lucas Fennessy, or is how you pronounce that?
Yeah,
Possible gonna be probably competing with Jackson Howard for that other end.
yeah, I'm sure it'll be pretty split. And Finney was fine. I just think Jackson Howard he's the better athlete of the two,
Okay.
and I thought he really flashed that athleticism last year. I just think he needs to play more to get more comfortable and fully come into his own.
Fair enough. Let's talk linebackers, man. Who you got?
So Mav Baranowski, he'll be the main guy in the middle. Been here a while. Last year, he actually showed a ton of improvement because we had to play him super early in his career, probably before he was ready 2 years ago, and it was pretty up and down. But listen, I love him against the run. He's your probably stereotypical, just big, bulky. I mean, his neck is like as big as my body, man. Just a huge neck and shoulders on him. So great at stuffing the run. And I think he's getting a little bit better at, not that he's not athletic, but he's getting more better at dropping into pass coverage. I'll just say it that way. And then outside with him, you got Devin Williams, who's in his fourth year now. He's a guy that's always had it athletically. I just think he's got to see it. He's not always in the right spot all the time, but I think he'll probably get the first shake at being that second linebacker on the field. And if not, we did bring in I forgot his first name here, Roberson from Oklahoma State.
Jeff
Roberson, yes, thank you. He had like 60 some tackles as a rotational player last year, so a lot of experience there, and they wanted somebody for that reason if they needed somebody out there. But yeah, and if we're ever in a 4-3, it'll be the three guys I just mentioned. So that's where the linebacker spot's looking like.
All right, let's talk corner play. Who we got, man?
Yeah. I do want to say last year when we did this, I said that our corners were the underrated part of that team not getting talked about, and they had a pretty good year. But that's
Toot
probably
the
that's
horn.
it. That's I was gonna say you can ignore what I said about our offensive line because that didn't pan out. Anyway,
No
so
one
we got
remembers that, though. No
yeah,
one remembers that.
that's right. So one guy that's got the spot locked down for sure is Zaquan Bryan. He had a few starts under his belt last year. He's a guy that got rotated in every game, no matter the situation. Really good guy in coverage. Just need to be a little bit more physical out there against the run, but not too worried about him, to be honest. We've been pretty good at getting those guys ready to go when they've been in the system for a little bit. And that other corner spot, probably the biggest question mark on the team, to be honest, as far as who's going to win it. You got Rylan Kelly, who's a big, lanky guy that's kind of more of a project that they've been really high on, just hasn't earned a lot of reps out there yet. And then they also brought in guys like Nestor out of Iowa, who they might play a little bit at corner or safety. And then we also brought in, I got to look up his name. We were just talking about all the transfers. Jalen Bowden out of North Carolina State, I believe it, or North Carolina Central State, so a smaller school, but a lot of experience there as well. So that's who's in the running, and then they also have guys like Garrison Monroe in the running, and Mike Gerald, who's also younger. All guys they like that are flashing, and then there's also Mike Parrish, who I think it's Mike Parrish, who's a true freshman that might also get the job out there. So that spot is wide open, and PJ does not like to share any details, so we don't know who's in the running. But I would probably go with Ryan Kelly and Zaquan Bryan.
And then at the nickel, Coy Parrish, is that who you play at the nickel?
Corey's going to get thrown all over this defense. So
Is
I
he?
would
Okay.
probably say, like have him start at the nickel because our best three defensive backs are three safeties. So they want them on the field as much as possible. Aiden Gooseby and Kerry Brown, who I think Kerry Brown is like somebody that doesn't get a lot of attention because Coy's there. But Kerry Brown, Gopher fans feel is a very, very good defensive back that has the potential. I don't know other teams' rosters super well, but has the potential to make, second, third team All Big Ten this year as well. So super high in this. And then Aiden Gooseby is a guy that they've been high on for a while and had a really good year last year. Missed a couple games due to injury, but he's phenomenal as well. So all three of those safeties are going to play all at the same time. So Coy might play corner. Kerry Brown might slide down, play corner. Personally, I think Coy athletically took away a lot of big plays from potentially happening last year. Just if you go back and watch tape, like USC, he stopped a lot of plays at like the 4 or 5 yard, gain plays that could have turned into something much bigger. So I think early downs they'll have Coy around the front seven in the box as much as possible.
Makes sense. Yeah. All right, let's flip it over to the offense here. So yeah, you're obviously you're very confident on that defense. You can hear it in your voice. Let's see what happens to your voice when we talk about the offense here. So,
So
all right, go with
yeah.
it. Let's go. Let's go. Let's start at quarterback and then work our way
Okay.
up front here, man. So
All right.
Drake Lindsay.
Yep. That's the
Okay.
man. So came here last year as a true freshman out of Arkansas. He was the Gatorade Player of the Year, I believe, out of Arkansas. Had family ties to the Razorbacks, and they pushed for him hard, but he stayed committed to the Gophers. Really big kid, really big arm, not super mobile, but I don't think he's a statue. But he's not a guy that's gonna you're not gonna spy him. I'll say that. And he just was at Max Brosmer's side all year last year, from what it sounds like. He was learning how to study, how to watch film. Basically, they called him Max Brosmer's kid brother just because he wouldn't leave him alone. He was all over him, just trying to soak up as much as possible. PJ went as far to tell us that he is the most talented quarterback that he's seen this early on in his career. PJ talks a lot, so we're going to see how that actually pans out. But he's the man. I mean, we're going to ride him if he's not ready. I mean, yeah, they brought in some guys, but I think Drake Lindsay's just that much more talented than the guys behind him. You got Dylan Whittaker, who's a transfer in his second year here. He came from Virginia Tech. We just added another guy from Old Dominion, and before that, he was at Boston College. He's played a lot of snaps, but not Emmett Moorhead. He's in his last year. That's a guy they got after spring ball, even. So that was just kind of a safety net grab as the third guy. But Drake Lindsay, they brought in Zach Pyron, who got some playing time at Georgia Tech last year, and was used a little bit as, I don't want to say wildcat, but in certain situations for them. And he was brought in to compete, and Drake Lindsay blew him out of the water. And sounds like Dylan Whittaker beat him out for the backup too. So he hit the portal and went to Alabama Southern, I believe. So he was only here for a couple of weeks, but it's Drake Lindsay's job, and he's going to have to really struggle to even make it like a competition. That being said, we also can't afford to see him get hurt.
Touche. Darius Taylor, running back.
Yep. He's going to be the bell cow. We brought in this Marshall kid. Sorry, I will have these guys' names down by the time we're actually seeing them play.
AJ
Turner.
Yeah.
Who they're very excited about. A lot of fans are excited about him.
He's pretty good. Ohio State watched him last year in person. We got to see him in person. Yeah.
More of a quick back, right? So Darius Taylor, more of a bruiser. He's kind of be like the lightning, so to speak, to Darius Taylor's thunder type running. I am excited for him. It's just the last type of running back like this that we brought in was from Western Michigan, and it did not go well. And we didn't. I also don't think we used him properly. So I think it was a learning thing for our coaching staff. But they're really high on him now. So really good 1-2 punch there with those two. And then we brought in Cam Davis, who I guess two years ago was a pretty solid back for the Washington Huskies, but had some injuries and then just kind of got beat out. But really well liked guy. I think he was a captain there for them too. So he's like the third option too. So running back's really deepest spot on the team. So we feel good about those guys.
All right, before we talk wide receiver, let's talk about tight ends.
Okay. So there's going to be a lot of 2 tight end sets, it sounds like, this year. We brought in Drew Bieber. I'm not exactly the pronunciation.
You got to go with Bieber.
I think it's Bieber, but anyway. So we'll go with Bieber.
For this podcast, it's Bieber. Okay.
So you guys got Purdue's other tight end.
Yeah.
This guy was also out there a lot. Just he was the number 2, and so that's what we brought him in. We lost our main blocking tight end, and he's looking to take that spot. But our main receiving threat is going to be Jamison Gears, somebody I'm very high on, and went so far as to say is I think he's going to make first or second All-Team Big Ten this year.
Woo.
That's no one else is making that prediction. I'm just going to be honest. He's just shown the ability to get open, and he's make contested catches. His problem last year was dropping the ones where he was wide open, which he did have 4 drops last year and led the team. I think it's an easy fix for him. Last year was his first year as a full-time starter. So I'm pretty high on Jamison Gears. He'll be the main receiving threat out of that group.
All right, let's talk receivers, my man.
Yeah. So brought in a
Oh,
few transfers
that didn't sound good. Yeah.
because it's okay. So last year I should be happy, but we're losing our number 1 and number 2. Daniel Jackson, which was a legit number 1 for the last 3 years at least. He graduated. He signed with the Texans. And then Elijah Spencer, who was here for 2 years. First year we were hearing a bunch of great things about him. Didn't really find his way on the field, and then last year he was just the perfect complementary receiver to Daniel Jackson. So lost our top 2 targets there, but we do bring back Lemeki Brockington. He's the guy, 5th-year senior, has shown the abilities to make some big plays, but honestly, I don't think he's got the same explosiveness since tearing his ACL 2 years ago. He's a good player though. He's just more of like the receiver that knows what he should do, right? Best run blocking receiver out there. Can make some big plays. It's just not what he used to be pre-injury. So we brought in some transfers. Logan Loya out of UCLA, which 2 years ago I believe had a 900-yard receiving season. They're really excited about him. He projects to be the slot. And then we brought in Javon Tracy, which he had a lot of options, and he's a guy coming from. Is he? So I think he's from Miami of Ohio.
Yes.
And so his brother's the running back for the Giants right now. And so we actually have one of his old coaches on staff, which is why we were able to win him in that, transfer portal recruiting battle there. But he had a lot of offers. He's an explosive guy that will be our more X wideout, if you will. So some options there. And then there's guys like we've been hearing a ton of for a long time. Nuke Hayes, as he goes by Nuke here. PJ has said he's the most explosive guy on the team with the ball in his hands. He's a guy I thought was going to hit the portal, but he's still here. We brought in Malachi Coleman out of Nebraska, who 2 years ago had an okay season. He's 6'5", really fast receiver. We don't have a lot of guys built like him, so I hope even if he's not the most polished guy that he's still out there in certain situations. And then we still have a Christian Driver from Penn State who got some playing time last year, Donald Driver's son, for you NFL fans out there. So a lot of options out there that look good on paper, but as Gopher fans, we've been through this in the past where it looks good on paper. I'll go as far to say is on paper athletically, it's a more athletically gifted room this year than even last year. But how's it all going to get put together? Because we've seen transfer receivers come in and either not produce or take a long time to produce. We do a segment each year of which coach on the staff has the most pressure on them. I went with the receivers coach / co-offensive coordinator, Matt Simon, who had an okay year last year, but I think that the receiver development has been iffy, to be nice about it. So something to watch for this year. They're excited about it, so maybe I shouldn't
Okay.
be doubting them after last year.
We have grown accustomed every offseason to looking at the starting lineup up front on the offensive line in Minnesota and being like senior, junior, senior, 5th-year senior. It's like, my gosh. And those guys are no longer there, man. Is
Yeah.
I would be weary about the offensive line if I'm you.
So we are, and
Okay.
it's probably I said the starting corner is the biggest question mark. I think the second one is probably just how the O line's going to mesh. Now we had all those guys last year, and it was still a down year for that offensive line group. Really good individual pieces. For whatever reason, we could not get the run game going consistently. Not really sure what went wrong. Um, Here's the thing. I do so. You're right. It's something to be aware of, but it also didn't go as good as it should have last year. So it like I'm kind of like, let's just roll with it, like
Hmm.
maybe the new pieces just gel together. So a couple things. The two guys are back from last year. Ashton Beers, who played guard, is going to center, and our center is now back to left guard, Greg Johnson. He played center last year, didn't go great for him, but it was his first time playing it. So we thought, okay, they stuck with it all year, so maybe they're expecting a big jump this year. Nope, they pulled the plug on it. He's back to guard where he played as a true freshman and looked pretty good for a true freshman playing in the Big Ten. So I think that's addition by subtraction, if you will, just him going back to guard where he was a better player. So I think that helps your run game already. And Ashton Beers had been the backup center his whole time here. So him taking over that center role, feel pretty good there. We brought in some transfers with experience. I'm sorry. I'll have these names down here by the time we play you guys. We got Marcellus Marshall, all right. So he's out of Central Florida, and he was with somebody else before that, but he has started at literally every spot, I think, except left tackle in his career. Got a lot of starts under his belt. I think they want him to play right guard. It's going to depend who can win that right tackle spot. They're trying out Dylan Ray, who they got from Kentucky, who is again a kid that played a lot of snaps, not a lot of starts, but was their like sixth man basically. He would get plugged in and played anytime Kentucky needed a guy last year, and has some starts under his belt. So I think right now it's projected uh, Dylan Ray at right tackle and Marcellus Marshall at right guard. That leaves left tackle to the transfer Khalif Tafai from Washington, who didn't have great PFF numbers last year at Washington, but he was also a redshirt freshman getting his first career playing time at left tackle in the Big Ten. So, and he had a lot of options in the transfer portal. I, I could be wrong. I thought Ohio State wanted him at one point, but maybe it was Penn State now that I think about it. But he had a ton of options, so that was a big win for the Gophers to get that. I know Nebraska wanted him. He's been hurt all spring, and so that leaves the door open for Nathan Roy, who he's like I think our fifth highest recruit we've landed ever. 4-star kid out of Wisconsin. He'll be a redshirt freshman this year. I think he's got the leg up from all reports of it. So Nathan Roy's probably going to be the starting left tackle. So it is a lot of new guys up there, but it's also some of this talent that we've been waiting to see. So I think that could be exciting. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of hiccups early on. We do kind of have a nice start, somewhat to speak, of just trying to get them ready for Big Ten play. But yeah, I think the offensive line, it could be a struggle again this year, or by the year's end, I think this group could be really good, but we'll have to see how it plays out.
Fair enough. All right, man. At this time, you know the drill. It's time to
Yeah.
break down this schedule and give our predictions of what the floor and ceiling are, etc. So, that being said, let's start here with you take on Buffalo from the MAC to start the season off on a Thursday night. So week 0 or week 1, I
Yeah.
guess, but Thursday night game. Um, and then Northwestern the following Saturday. I don't foresee any issues with either one of those games. Buffalo can
Yeah.
they're middle of the road, upper echelon MAC school, so but should be a win. And then on the road at Cal. Now that's going to be an interesting game. Cal's starting quarterback this year, former Buckeye, Devin
Yeah.
Brown, high 4-star quarterback. Didn't win the starting job. Was the backup for the majority of the season last year, and then decided to hit the portal. And so that's going to be an interesting one. Buckeye fans might have their eye on there. So, your thoughts on that game on the road at Cal? Like I feel like Cal's kind of underachieved, despite some having decent rosters. So this could be a really interesting game where, which team's going to show up type of thing.
Right. So I was with you for the longest time about like that game is going to just be tough for the first road game. True freshman quarterback, Devin Brown, talented kid going over there. I feel a lot better now. I'm not saying we couldn't lose it. We absolutely could with the new faces and new places type thing. Cal got absolutely raided in this spring transfer portal window. I think they lost. I'm not joking. I think they lost 5 running backs. I think they're down to
Oh my
like their 6th
gosh.
running back. I think they brought in North Dakota State kid because of how many running backs they lost. So their roster got absolutely raided, and so I'm feeling a lot more confident about that game now. I'm not saying it's impossible that we lose that game, but for me personally, I think the Gophers have enough talent just with how much that roster got picked apart to get the job done.
Okay. Moving on, you after a bye week, you come back home to take on a Rutgers team that many think is going to take a step back after the best roster they've had in many years.
Yeah.
Kind of underachieved a little bit last year, so got to feel good that this one's at home.
Absolutely, and that's the only reason I'm picking us. To be honest, I last year we lost them on the road when they were depleted. It was right after our upset win against Illinois, so they had a bye getting ready for us. This year we have a bye at home getting ready for them. We're familiar with their quarterback. For listeners don't remember, Ethan Kalikmanis was a Golden Gopher before transferring to Rutgers. And for whatever reason, last year in the first half we didn't blitz them, and he did really well. Second half we blitzed them, and Rutgers did nothing. Unfortunately, we turned it over inside our own 10 late in that game to lose the ball game. But yeah, so PJ and coaching staff, they're going to really want this one. They kind of did a weird thing last year where they didn't want to talk about all the connections that Rutgers and Minnesota have with each other, just of coaches that were on both staffs and have flipped and been promoted off each other's staff and players that have been on both teams. But I don't see that being the case this year. I think it'll be close, and I do consider it more of a coin flip type game, but I like the Gophers at home.
Well, if all goes well and you are correct on everything, that means you'll be 4-0 coming into Columbus, Ohio. Probably going to be a big noon kickoff then.
Yeah.
That's
I
just the
take
way.
it you guys aren't happy with that. I only
Oh
see
my
Buckeyes complaining
gosh.
about it about every 10 minutes on Twitter.
Oh,
I get it though. I get it though.
it's so it's tiresome carrying the water for Fox. Literally, it's like Fox is
Yeah.
like another big new kickoff in Columbus, Ohio. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
guys, really. And if it's not that, it's NBC's Peacock special against
Yeah.
Purdue or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that'll be funny. But I'm gonna chalk that one up as an L for you, just being a homer myself here.
Yeah.
Purdue, worst team in the Big Ten last year. I don't anticipate them being much better this year.
Yeah.
That should be a win. And
I will
then
say Purdue is sneaky when they're supposed to be this bad, and I think they got a great coach. I'm not saying we're
I
gonna.
do think
Well,
they got a good coach, but it's going to take
yeah,
them a couple years, man.
I
Let's be
agree.
honest.
I agree. We should win it. I'll say
Yeah,
that we should win. Yeah.
and it's at home.
Yeah.
It's that helps out too. All right, October 17th on Fox, Nebraska comes to town.
Yeah.
This sounds like it's going to be a knockdown drag out fight.
Absolutely. It's a coin flip game. So I mean, as far as like where it's gonna go, I haven't picked this game mentally yet. We have owned Nebraska. I know everybody has owned Nebraska for the most part, but like seriously, I think, Scott Frost was the head coach the last time they won, and it was his first year. That's the last time that
Wow.
Nebraska has beat us. We were his first Big Ten win, and might have been his last. I really don't remember. He didn't work out well. But Nebraska tells us every year that they're going to beat us, and so I have really enjoyed this matchup. But Matt Rule is a fantastic coach, and they are building something there, I do believe. But I don't think it's going to be like we're a touchdown underdog at home against them or anything. So to me, it's a coin flip, and I like being at home, so it should be a great game.
Yeah, 5 in a row, 6 out of the last 7.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So, yeah, I didn't know. I didn't realize that. Okay. You got to feel pretty confident about that one too then. Um, this one not so much. On the road on October 25th at Iowa and Kinnick Stadium, dude.
Yeah, I picked it as a win 2 years ago, and we got the job done. We'll see. I mean, it's not unwinnable. I'm never going to pick us to be like, yep, that's a win at Iowa. Just hasn't happened. PJ's 1-8. Or, I'm sorry, am I 1-7? Yeah, he's going into his ninth year. Yeah, so he's 1-7. Kirk Ferentz, man, I love when these national pundits come in and irk Iowa fans about like is it time for Ferentz to move on? Is he holding Iowa back? And it's like, I'm just begging him to move on at this point. Like, please move on, because he's done a really good job against the Gophers. So that one will be tough.
Yeah, I just pulled up the Winsipedia. Now you guys own the all-time win record against them.
Oh yeah, we've just
Yeah.
it's. I mean, man.
Not
Unfortunately for a
recently,
lot of
but
yeah, unfortunately for most of my lifetime, we've had a lot of coaching changes, which is why PJ's refreshing because of how long he's been able to keep the job and stay here. We had Glenn Mason for a while. I think he was okay against them. Moved on to Brewster, who was just the worst Gopher coach in program history and just took us down to nothing. So had to rebuild from that. And Jerry Kill, actually, I think I got him a couple of times, or at least once. We beat him back to back in that Kill era, I believe. And then from there it was a long time. They had won 9 straight. So
yeah, Glenn Mason was 4-5 in nine games against Iowa.
okay.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. Glenn Mason, former Buckeye. There was a time when we thought Glenn Mason was going to be the head coach at Ohio State, and it was rumored to be, and then they went and got Jim Tressel. Good decision, by the way.
Yeah, it was. And he always floated that out to us too. I like Glenn. He's a good guy. Or was a good guy. I don't know what he's up to now. I'm sure he's still a good guy, but he would always float that, like, yeah, if the Buckeyes called, I'd take the phone call. It's just like, okay, like, that's great, but you're also our head coach right now, and what's that look like to recruits? It's like no one's faulting you.
It was his
just,
dream job, man. You can't fault the guy. Yeah, he coached with Earl Bruce, and
I
yeah,
think
like he was,
a lot of that steam was pushed by him as much as anybody else. But
oh yeah,
I digress.
probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that. Okay, next up, you've got a game against Michigan State. This is an interesting game. You get it at home. I think that's good. This is year 2 of the rebuild there in
Yeah.
East Lansing. You gotta feel like you gotta feel like, yeah, Minnesota should win this game because it's at home.
Yeah, I mean, we got to see, right? There's a lot with the transfer portal. You never know how these teams are going to translate each year, but I think it's like a 58% chance at just moment that we win. I do think Michigan State's going to be a lot better, but I've listened to a few Sparty breakdowns, and it sounds like there's still more questions on the defensive side of the ball right now. And this is a revenge game. They have our defensive coordinator. Rossi chose to leave, which is fine. Like, I'm not faulting him. He got a pay raise, but when Fleck had that bad year, and it was mainly because of the defense in 2023, Rossi chose to jump ship just to feel a little safer, is kind of what the sound of it was, on top of the pay raise. So I think this is a little bit of PJ will be motivated for that one, is what I'm trying to get at.
All right, another bye week, the second bye week of the season on November 8th, and then you go out to Autzen Stadium, Eugene, Oregon, 9
Easy
p.m.
dub.
kickoff on Fox. Yeah. That's a tough place to play, man. That is a massive home field advantage, dude. Have fun with
Absolutely.
that one. At
We will.
Northwestern, it's at Wrigley Field. At Wrigley Field. Okay, I'm just gonna hot take here. It was kind of this, oh, let's go to Chicago and watch Ohio State on Wrigley Field. It sucked. The stadium, like, it's not conducive to college football. It's not. The field was terrible. The players were talking about how bad it was. The locker room situation, they literally were in the bullpen. That was where the locker room was for the Buckeyes.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, whatever. Just go win that game. I hate the fact that they're playing at Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
I'll die on that hill against Northwestern fans. I think it's stupid.
All the teams hate it when it happens in bowl games, and so now they've started to introduce it for regular season too. I don't get it either, because it's also not the normal TV angles in there, so it sucks to watch too.
Yeah, it's terrible for television experience.
Yeah,
it's a lot of the fans who were all excited. They were like, Boggsy, we were so far away from the field, we didn't see nothing.
Yeah.
It was just not. It was very not good at all. In fact, some people I know, they like left their seats and they went up to like where you come in before you go down into Wrigley to sit, and they're like, we stood up there to watch the game so we could see it.
Now, I've heard Wrigley's got like a built-in casino, so that could be fun, like for sports betting while you're there.
Then just go to the casino to watch the game.
No, I know. Well, Minnesota, that's a big deal because we are like the last state to not have sports gambling or something.
Oh, is that? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, and here's a side thing: like Northwest, as far as temporary fields go, I think being right there on the lake with Northwestern is actually a pretty
Oh,
cool backdrop to a game.
and they love
I
it. They
I
love
would have
it.
much rather gone to a game right there on is that Lake Michigan right there? I don't
Yeah,
know where their
yeah, it's
campus is
like
set up. Yeah,
Michigan.
so that would be to me that would be way cooler to go see. But yeah, I think I'm with you. I think we should be able to win that game. Me and David Braun, not at the same time. He's older than me, but we went to the same college. He coached, or at least he coached at Winona State, which is where I went to college before he made his jumps to the D1. So I have part of me that's always pulling for him. Not 2 years ago where they pulled off that 21-point comeback and beat us, but I hope he survives and can stick there.
I hate trophy games except for one. This is the one. When you play for a freaking big axe, I love it. That is cool as crap. Okay,
Yeah.
I love that. The rest of the rivalry trophies are like Ohio State's rivalry trophy with Illinois is the gayest thing in the world. It's a freaking, it's a wooden turtle. I hate it. And Illinois fans like this is we gotta win. Play for the turtle. I'm like keep it. I don't care. It's dumb. It's
So
embarrassing.
I can't jump on board with the whole trophy thing because I'm biased, but I think Minnesota's got the three coolest ones that exist with the pig with Iowa, and then
That's
I
dumb.
love the little brown jug with Michigan. I love them
That's
all.
dumb.
So
That's dumb. But the axe,
yeah,
okay, that's pretty cool, dude. Now I've come up with some good rivalry trophy ideas in my mind that I think are pretty good. Like I think Michigan State and USC should play each other, and the winner gets the sword.
okay,
Can you
yeah,
imagine Sparty walking off with the USC Trojan sword?
that'd be sweet.
Oh, and like that would be awesome, right?
I
Okay.
mean, Minnesota Iowa could go back to a real pig if you want, like the first one was.
Yeah, that would be better than a fake pig. I mean, a real turtle's better than a wooden turtle, which originally it was. It was a real turtle to start off with. But okay, Oregon and Ohio State have this new rivalry that's blossoming. I call it the Nike Bowl, right?
Yeah,
We're Ohio State is Nike's number one producer as far as funds are concerned. Oregon, of course, is the home of Nike,
yeah.
Phil Knight. So I came up with the idea that the loser of that game, the coach takes off their shoes and walks them out to the 50-yard line to present to the winning coach.
I like it.
And they
That's
get to
a good
dip
one.
them in bronze and put them
I,
in the.
I
I think that'd
Honestly,
be
with how
cool.
many sneakers Nike puts out, they could make it like really cool, and like the players get, I don't know, whatever the newest Nike shoe is, like in
Sure.
their customized for them. I
Yeah,
like that
I think
idea.
that's a pretty good idea. I like that one. Um, But no, Paul Bunyan's axe, give it to me. I love it. By the way, I just looked this up. I had no idea. Did you know that right now this rivalry is completely tied?
Yeah.
63 wins to 63 wins and 8 ties right now. Last year you guys tied it at 63 with a 24-7 win against Wisconsin. And here's the storyline. I don't know if Luke Fickle's the head coach in this game. That schedule that Bucky Badger has this year is brutal.
I'm gonna
I
love
mean,
watching their games so much this year. It's just gonna be great to see that. Yeah, no, it's so tough, and they might be better this year overall, but it's not gonna
I don't
probably show that.
I don't know that
Um,
matters.
I don't think they can fire Fickle just with the money he's getting. I think he's gonna get from the Badger people I read or have heard talk. Year 4 is pretty much guaranteed unless he goes like an over. So, um,
And they extended him by a year. That's what
yeah,
was kind of like.
they claim that's normal for them, but yeah, I don't get it.
Anyways, yeah, this that team might be so devastated by this point in the season
I'm
that
hoping so.
A, it doesn't matter, or B, they have nothing else to play for, which could be
Yeah,
dangerous.
yeah.
So that'll be really really interesting. And of course, you get that one at home. That's good too for you guys. So, all right, Curt, here we go, man. Give me the worst case scenario in your mind for this team, the absolute basement floor, and give me the best case scenario in your mind this season for PJ Fleck. What's the record look like at the end of the regular season if everything goes your way?
Yeah, if everything goes our way, I think a lot of Gopher fans would tell you 10-2. I'm just gonna go 9-3 because of the amount of new pieces that have to mesh. Right, I covered the offensive line, how there was some talented guys we brought in, but they've never played together really, and so just a lot of guys getting a lot of full time playing time this year. So, and I mean, they really like them. So if they're all hits, then sure, why not? But Ohio State, Oregon, unless any given Saturday, 99.9% chance we're not winning either of those games. Both on the road. Rather have those games on the road, to be honest, than waste the home game on those. So those, and then like Iowa's not unwinnable, but to think that you're going to beat look at that stretch there. Nebraska, Iowa, and Sparty go 3-0 in that stretch. To me, that's just it's safe enough that we're probably not going to get all three of those. So for me, I'm putting our ceiling at 9-3, and that's a great year. I think that shows that we beat some good teams on the schedule, and that we got what we should have got the production we should have out of our roster. So I think 9-3 would be an excellent year.
And the basement floor.
Yeah, a new quarterback, injuries could really derail this team. Vegas has us at 6.5, which is that's not high, but that's a lot higher than Vegas usually has us. So I think Vegas likes us this year too. But I'll go 5 wins as the basement. If Drake Lindsay gets hurt, and that was really we're all in on him, who knows what that offense is going to look like? Right now we have great tailbacks that should help out tremendously, even if Lindsay does stay healthy. So you're good there. And you said I sounded confident about the defense, which I'm glad. D line depth is a concern. I should get that out there. We brought in some transfer guys to help out, but PJ, for whatever reason, has been very stingy on the guys that get to play in the front four. So it's like we're playing these our D tackles like all game, and they got their hands on their hips. Fatigue or injuries to the front four could be a big issue as well this year. So I'm giving us the 3 non-conference games. I think we're good enough to still go out and get like Purdue and Northwestern or something like that. So I think 5 to 9 wins is this team's realistic range.
Okay. You convinced me. All right. So, yeah, I think that sounds about right, man. If you
I
guys
try and be
go,
realistic. I
no,
like to
like,
be
yeah,
homerish,
I know,
but
I know, I know, I know 9-3 is realistic, but let's say you do upset Iowa, you win every game that's the coin flip, and you go 10-2.
yeah.
You're probably in the college football playoff, dude.
Yeah, we'll see you guys. We'll see you there.
Coming to Columbus again? Gonna make
Yeah.
that trip back to Columbus?
Or depending on how it shakes out, I don't know how the Big Ten, championship game would work out if that happened. But no, absolutely. And there have been Gopher fans that are dreaming of that. And I get that the schedule looks, it's weird to say, but like when you have Oregon and Ohio State on the schedule, that still overall in the grand scheme of things, it looks manageable, just where our buys fall. And, burning 2 road games against you two where we probably weren't going to win anyway helps. That's how you have to view things, by the way, as a Gopher fan. So Ohio State fans, you're very lucky, as you guys know. But you want to get those tough games usually on the road. I mean, there's a counter argument, right? Counter argument, right? You don't want to go play Penn State in the whiteout necessarily if you think you have a chance. But when it's games that you're pretty confident you're going to lose, it's best, in my opinion, to burn them on the road and just get more winnable games at home, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Like the Nebraskas, the Michigan States, stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, 10-2, there are Gopher fans preaching it. It's just, to me, being a little bit more of a downer, I guess you could say. I think it's possible, not probable. That's for sure. So I
Okay.
think 7-8 is where we're gonna fall.
And that's been the average, right, for
Yeah,
PJ Flex, about 7 wins. And yeah, there's some interesting holes on this roster, but you're playing a lot of teams who have some holes on their roster too.
yeah.
And
As we saw with last year's, just last year in the Big Ten, you take away Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, and Indiana. really any team could beat any team from
Yeah,
below that. So I mean, and that's what we saw. Iowa, Minnesota has a lead on Iowa, turns around, gets thumped, and then I think Iowa like loses to Sparty and but beats Washington, and then Washington beats who did they
Michigan.
beat?
Yeah,
Michigan. So it was just all over. I don't even want to talk about Michigan. We should have won that game last year, but it is what it is, and that's just how a lot of those teams felt last year. It's just we should have beat this team, we should have beat this team, but every team was saying
tell me
that.
about
So
it, brother. Tell me
yeah,
about it.
yeah,
I I
yeah,
feel you on that one, man.
yeah.
I was at that
So
game.
I just think it's something that when you're not that up in that upper tier of the Big Ten, which I can safely say we're not, it's just it's going to be a year to year thing, and a lot of these teams are going to be able to beat each other any given Saturday. So I think what we saw last year is going to be the norm. I'm not saying you can't put together a special season like Illinois did, like Indiana did, but it's going to be you got to bring it every Saturday, and we'll see.
Curt, thank you so much for joining me, man. If there's a Minnesota fan who's jumped on this thing and they aren't currently following you, man, tell them where they can find your guys' work at, my brother.
Yeah, so we're Sky Pod on YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, really anywhere you listen. So you can find the show that way. And then social media wise, mainly on X. So we're at SkyUpod1 with just a one there at the end, numerically. And so that's where you're going to see most of our interactions. And yeah, we like to be a fan podcast. There's not a lot of Gopher fan football podcasts out there that we feel that by saying we're a fan podcast, we can kind of go out and be more I don't say edgy, but just speak our minds and not have to worry about hurting people's feelings and whatnot, and just be dreamers also. So yeah, we like to have fun. We just did recently a 2010s Gopher draft off of who between the three of us, I have two co-hosts, could draft the best Gopher team from the past decade, and that was a lot of fun. So deep dive
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
Gophers there.
that's always good stuff to do, man. Well, Curt, we'll be joining each other again several months down the road here, about the 4 months down the road in October. We'll be seeing each other again for an awesome preview that week of when you guys coming to Columbus? Or you guys gonna stay back in Minnesota to watch that
I
one?
would love to. I mean, I think I may have admitted to this to you to past. I actually am a semi like I don't mind Ohio State. I never have. So I have some Ohio State gear myself. Not gonna wear it. I'm just saying I would love to get out there for a game someday. It is on the bucket list. It's just tough because as I've gotten older too, like my passion for Gopher football has also grown. So I don't want to miss a single thing when it comes to Gopher
Yeah.
football. And unfortunately, all these teams play on Saturday. But I would love to make it out there. We'll see if the newborn baby
Well,
cooperates. So we'll see what
if you
happens.
guys come, if you end up coming, let me know, man. We'll show you a good time, brother.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody,
Appreciate
go
that.
check him out over on the Sky U Pod. Appreciate you, Curt. Joining in, my man, and we look forward to talking to you again here real soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
And thank you to Curt from the Sky U Pod for joining us here on the OHIO podcast. Do us a big solid, especially if you're a Minnesota fan. Go over to their YouTube channel, give them a sub. Those guys are fantastic. They do a lot of good work over there. They're really good dudes. They're one of my favorite Big Ten podcasts to work with, in all honesty. Those guys are great and just really good dudes. They deserve your patronage, like I said, especially if you're a Minnesota fan. All right, Chris, let's take a look at the schedule one more time and we'll give our predictions here. The over under on the Gophers in 2025. They've risen the bar by 2 games. They're now at 6.5, so it's going to be a little bit harder, I think, to make some money off of Minnesota this year. But looking at the schedule, I do think it's still possible. They open up the season with 2 home games against some lesser opponents, Buffalo, Northwestern State. They go on the road at Cal before they get the bye game, and then they start Big Ten play. Home against Rutgers, at Ohio State, home against Purdue, home against Nebraska in what is a very interesting game, at Iowa, home against Michigan State, then a bye, at Oregon, at Northwestern, which will be that game will be over in I believe Wrigley Field,
Mhm.
and then home against Wisconsin. Chris, I have a prediction of 7-5 on the season, 5-4 in the Big Ten. So I'm staying away from betting on the Gophers this year at 7. You're a little bit more confident. You say 8-4, 5-4 in the Big Ten this year for the Gophers. Chris, explain yourself, man.
Yeah, I look at this and their schedule, and you had it pulled up there. If you look at that, I see 6 wins that I can almost bank. That's the 3 non-conference.
Really? Over Cal even.
Yes.
They haven't done
I,
well
I,
in their big Power 4 non-conference game.
I'm telling you, I feel well, first of all, is Cal, who for some reason is in the ACC now, even really, is the ACC even really a Power 4 conference anymore?
I guess, but you do know who the
They're,
quarterback for
they're the
Cal
MAC on
is, don't you?
steroids. What's that?
You do know who the quarterback for Cal is, right?
Yeah.
It's our boy.
Yeah, it's Devin Brown.
It's our boy Devin Brown. Burn the boats. Build
Yeah.
build a build a raft. Go to
Well, while he's
California.
out burning them, PJ Fleck and his boys are going to be rowing them. So,
Touche.
yeah, I feel like they've got the 3 non-conference. I feel like they get Rutgers at home. I feel like that's a win. I feel like Northwestern and Purdue are both guaranteed wins. So I look at this and I look at what teams,
Wisconsin.
and
And
and that's one I definitely
end of the
think is a
year
win.
could be under a new coach. Could be
Well, and if
seriously
not,
beat up.
Wisconsin's going to be so beat up by that schedule by that point anyhow.
Right.
I really feel like they can get Wisconsin. And then
Did you
as I look
mention
through
Michigan
that,
State?
that was my next one. I said I was going to say you've got Michigan State in there. Could they upset Iowa or Nebraska? Maybe. Um, so to me, I think that 8-4 is feasible. I think that I'm not gonna lie, I think 9-3 is possible.
10-2 is the ceiling here, in my opinion. Like we talked with Curt, Ohio State and Oregon, and Curt was very realistic here. You know those are probably guaranteed L's, but Iowa,
Outside of that, I think they're in play with everybody.
Iowa, Nebraska, Wisconsin, those are games that they're not necessarily lacking enough talent to compete in those games.
I think
So,
realistically they could steal 2 of those 3. I'm not sure which ones exactly, but I think they could steal 2 or 3.
well, it's going to be really, really interesting. So, Chris, the big question here, are you willing to lay some money on this?
Yeah, you know what? I am
Okay.
willing to. I'm probably going to head over to DraftKings after we get off here. Maybe put a little scratch down on the Golden Gophers to take the over.
All right. There you have it. Chris is that confident. I am not so much. I think I'm going to stay away from this one this year. I think that 6.5 number, Vegas is kind of daring you to go over with that one a little bit. I think 7 is doable, but you never know. Injuries, things of that nature. And like you said, Minnesota has been struck by the injury bug before. So, but it is one of my funner teams to watch in the Big Ten. I enjoy watching Minnesota. When they're on TV, usually it's a pretty close game, and it's pretty fun in the fourth quarter. So
Yeah, but I'll tell you what. You look at this, Eric, and there's just no team can have this much bad luck injury wise this many years in a row. It's a decade of injuries to Minnesota. I feel like they're due to come out of this. I really do.
Nebraska fans just said, "Hold our beer."
Facts.
All right, everybody, like, share, subscribe. You know the deal. Again, we appreciate each and every single one of you. This is number 3 of 18, so we got 15 more to go. Chris, our first 2 did really well. The USC one did great. That was one of our best viewed Big Ten previews that we've done. USC fans, boy, they were chirpy in that comment section, man. They are chirpy this year. Minnesota fans won't be so much, I promise you. Minnesota fans are pretty level-headed people when I've dealt with them. So I'll be rooting for the old Gophers this year, and those guys over at Sky
Oh,
U
you
Pod, they
betcha.
deserve it.
You
What's that?
betcha.
You betcha.
You betcha.
Eh? All right, guys, let us know what you think about what we think down in the comment section below. Again, we appreciate each and every single one of you. And if you're listening to us on iTunes or Spotify, Stitcher, I don't know, one of those doesn't even exist anymore. I can't remember which one. Give us a 5-star review if you don't mind. We appreciate that as well. We hope you guys are enjoying this. There were 3 down, 15 more to go. Chris, till the next time, you all know what to do. Be kind to one another. I owe someone's OH. Sing Carmen Ohio with all your heart. Chris, OH.
Ohio.
Go Bucks.